If you didn't know any better, you might think I'd bought this thing in early 2020, put it somewhere in a storeroom and forgotten about it. If you didn't know any better, you'd be right. This is the RGT EX86010 and it's the CJ, the JK version, which we didn't get. Now, a few of my fellow reviewers on YouTube have pipped me at the post again. The end of 2019 this came out. This thing is as old as COVID. So if you've been living under a rock and you haven't had a chance to get out much, hey, this is basically new. I understand that this thing is actually the short wheelbase of a stellar performer from our time here on YouTube from 2021, the RGT Pioneer. Cheap and cheerful. I'm pretty sure these were actually a similar price. They have the, well, they got the same running gear, different tires and a different body. Just a quick update, we've done a whole series on getting the most out of this and it's still running its stock wheels and tires. That's because we got it performing really well with its stock wheels and tires. I rather suspect this EX86010 will have the same issue as this, which is it'll have 4-link up front when really what you want is 3-link up front. We'll get to that. I've also been loaning this thing out at competitions and finally someone broke it. They snapped off the plastic U part of the universal joint on the shaft and lost that. I don't think it even snapped. I think it just kind of got forced open under torque and it got lost. I need to replace it with another drive shaft. I haven't gotten around to it, but I mean that's the only problem I've had with it so far. Now you might recall from my upgrade series we did actually put a slightly punchier motor in, no sorry, a slightly slower motor in, because these things come with a 17-turn 550 motor. So the motor's too fast and the servo's too slow, and it's a 15 kilo waterproof job. But again, it's a cheaper model, and if you can still get it, because it has been a while, they're not a bad machine. So, let's pop it apart, have a look. It's actually something of a time capsule, because this is the RGT of 2019. It's kind of cool. So, before I drive it, I'm going to remove one of the upper links, and it'll be the one that's on the pivoting side of the panhard, so it's the upper left I'm going to remove. Now it's a lovely licensed Jeep body with licensed Super Swamper oh hang on, no it's not licensed. It's a Jeep-ish body. It's missing a nice plastic front. It's missing the winch that's pictured everywhere, except it says warning Jeep winch not included. Well, we can do something about that. We can do something about a driver as well. They're glued tires, not beadlock, vented though. It's the same axles. It's like a almost that Gen 7 era of axle. They look cheap, but honestly they've held up pretty well on the Pioneer. The rubber is also really soft. So yeah, I mean, look, it's just a short wheelbase version of the Pioneer. Take a look at the approach and departure angles. It's not bad. It said close to 90 degrees on the sales material. I mean, yeah, okay, the front they got a point, but the rear, not so much. The body could actually be lowered a little bit. I reckon we could drop the body by one hole in the rear. This is one of the many variants of the Dumbo RC. Nothing wrong with that. 4 AA's, very basic parts list. It'll have some exploded parts in it. Manual for the radio, some extra spaces for the suspension, which I think we might actually need some of. And, you know, not a terrible sticker sheet. It still has that... Oh, and they've spelled off-road correctly, because the box still says off-railed from some of my previous videos I've briefly commented. Now, there's a Hobbywing sticker here, didn't mention that. Hobbywing WP1060 equivalent, I think. It looks like a 1040, but it says 60 amp. I'll trust them. It's a 1060, basically, which means we've got a jumper on there for nickel metal hydride at least, and LiPo. The bumper comes with a fair lead. Oh, and there are holes on the bumper for the winch mount, right? But if you bought the winch up there, you can't use the fair lead. And if you have something mounted back in here somehow, there's a bracket for the bumper as well that just stops it. This fair lead's functionally useless, is my point. But I will just say, it's a metal bumper with lights, functional lights inside the metal bumper. Nobody does that. Plastic's cheaper to work with, it seems, or at least in the mass production way it is these days. I really dig this. Okay, it's a bit of a fail bumper, but that's a win in my book. It's kind of cool, right? I found another cool feature. I've got the body pin off right now, but it goes through that, And these little side panels go in too. You can pull them out and that pops out of the body as well. You've just got 2 screws and that's your windscreen off. So you can run it without a windscreen if you like. That's good design. There's a hulking great nickel metal hydride battery in there. I'm going to run a LiPo today in fairness to my comparisons because we do them all on that. So right, let's get this thing winched up, drive it up, and we'll hit the 6 problem course and just see how this 4-year-old relic goes on my course. If it's anything like the Pioneer, it's going to be all right. Let's go. Right, first time I've crawled with it. This is problem 1 for the EX86010-CJ. These fake Proline Super Swampers are very soft and vented. There's a bit of weight up top, not a heck of a lot. I wasn't sure about this mustard colour at first, but I gotta say, I like it. They've done a good job with this old thing. And although it's not 2019 anymore, I reckon they'd get away with selling this still. Just the that 4-link and panhard setup with the chassis mounted servo, it's a bit iffy. And also I think they got a little bit keen with showing the winch and everything when it's not included. But we fixed that, didn't we? There you go, there you go. I must say, it's very controllable and I thought it would be too fast. It kind of is, but it's not too bad. Into problem 2, straight off of 1. Now the Pioneer is one of my favorites, not because it's the best crawler or because it's the best looker. I mean, this one actually looks a lot better than it, I think, but that's a subjective thing. But the reason I liked the Pioneer so much is because it was so capable for such a low price. Now remember, we've had much more expensive rigs than this struggle here. This has just done it, no trouble at all. I love it. And after such a smooth start for problem 1 and 2, I get cautiously excited about how these things could be because it's not a huge name RGT. I guess it's getting bigger these days, but it's still a cheap, like it's a premium cheap model. And the Pioneer was just a heck of a performer. That's the EX86110. And we've got plenty of work we've done on that thing. Now we still have a rear mounted battery here. We've got the spare tire in the rear. It's not ideal. Oh, okay, now look, we're just playing around here, but check it out. It's just a little key lanyard thing. I was really just being silly. But could it actually be any help? There we go. Let's see. It's fully extended. I just had to get it somewhere it could grip. Look at that. Yeah, that really helped. So that's a super cheap lanyard, but it got us up problem 3. But it doesn't count, does it? I was just being a bit cheeky there, but I mean, the spring on this little lanyard, key lanyard thing is not strong at all. But what it did do for us was it stopped the front from lifting back, which is really all it needed to get itself over. We still might be able to get it without assistance. That wide bumper is getting in the way as well. I wouldn't trade it though. I think it looks very smart with lights and being metal. You don't see that every day. And again, same axles as the Pioneer. My unit has been punished in the hands of newcomers to the sport on comp days. All that's broken was that little plastic part of the universal in the drive shaft. That's it. Axles have been absolutely flawless. So it's cheap, but it is capable. Now that back tire's scraping on the ground back there. See if we, usually longer cars will come up around here and this thing will probably roll, yeah. All right, we'll make for a quick one. I don't like our chances, so we'll just have a quick blat at it. I'm happy with the drag brake. It is actually holding the vehicle. If you made it much heavier, you'd probably start to notice shortcomings. They spell off-road on the box correctly, but they're still off-railed on this thing. Oh well. This was a few years ago and I would hope RGT have noticed and fixed that one. They probably have. English is hard, man. I understand. And when you're competing on cost, you can't afford to hire an editor for all your copy. I mean, I've seen several companies, even companies, newer companies, Rolalo, have had their share of English mishaps here and there. It's almost impossible to avoid. And I suspect coming from non-Cyrillic languages in particular, I think that the challenge, I mean, it's hard enough with all the idioms we use, but just spelling and all the rest of it, I don't hold it too much against them, honestly. It's nice to see. It used to reflect pride in your product, but I think spelling and grammar is becoming more of a convenience. Nice to have, you know. Ooh. I don't think we have the center of gravity. Oh wow, look at that. You know what made up for that is the traction on that. We can't see it. I can't see it where I'm standing behind the camera either, but the traction from that back right made all the difference. The car isn't enough to overcome this. Let's just see if it could do it. If it got there by some miracle. Oh look, the short wheelbase. Okay, so this is actually an impressive car. The short wheelbase does actually help it across. The problem is getting over this fella here. That's actually quite a difficult one. So that's close to problem 4. Right, into problem 5. It's a beautiful start of spring. Very windy today, but it's just glorious out in the sunshine. This car looks really good in the sun too. All right, so the biggest weakness for crawling is the bumper gets in the way, but you can kind of maneuver your way around it by moving the steering wheels. It kind of shifts the body. There's less shifting now with one of those upper links removed, but it is actually cycling correctly. All right, so if you have this car and you haven't done it yet, get rid of that upper left link at the front. You can do the bolts back up after it. I didn't have to add any hardware, I just literally just removed that top link. And the suspension now works correctly like it should. The 4-link suspension or panhard both work, but not together. And 4-link with chassis mounted servo just doesn't work as well as having a panhard. So I was confused why they did this with the Pioneer. This is from the same era, so understandably they didn't fix it, but it just shows that maybe they were copying stuff rather than actually thinking about it. But thankfully they got enough of it right. We're hanging on for dear life here. They got enough of it right that the car still is actually very functional. I'm seeing if we can save this. I don't think we can. You know what would help here? Mr. Winch, Mr. Winch. Let's get this in, maybe even there. There's a nice little crack. I know that there isn't much value in what I'm doing here. Hang on, can you even see what we're doing? We're having a play is what we're doing. All right, there's the anchor down there. I don't like our chances of this working, but we're just having a play. You know what's stopping it is the rear tyre keeps, when the car gets high enough, the rear tyre is just dragging on the ground behind it. Hey! All right. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think we can still do 5. Let's just quickly get it done. Back at the bottom of this one. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Come on. Come on. See, the winch would have helped here, right? I don't think we're getting problem 5 out. Winch, stop it from flipping backwards. It lets me be a little bit more bold with turning earlier there, because we would have rolled back potentially. There we go. There we go. Look, it looks like it comes with a winch, right? I know it says on the box not included, but that's like a $2 winch there and it did the job. Looks good, doesn't it? I don't know how we're going to go on problem 6. We're probably not going to get it. The Pioneer could do all 6. It couldn't originally do all 6, but with a little bit of tweaking it could. Oh, you know what, we'll just roll it, doesn't matter. I'm inclined to leave this truck as it is. It's a fun little machine. And it doesn't need to be the best. And if you're watching for the first time, oh dear. I use these 6 problems to evaluate how a car compares to others. So we don't need, like even cars that are only kind of scalers rather than crawlers, we don't need everything to do all 6 problems, but it's just a bit of a benchmark. And it's my way to help you evaluate whether the car might meet your needs. I can tell you already, she's top heavy, and short wheelbase certainly doesn't help as far as tipping over goes, but it does grant it a lovely breakover. It feels good in the hand too. This Dumbo radio certainly helps. It's a slow servo, but it's very sure-footed. It's actually nicer than the Hextronics thing that Red Cat included with their crawlers until very, very recently. We're about to lose this again. So this thing still has enough torque to move the wheels around. They're just cheap glued wheels, they're not beadlocks. The tyres are nice and soft. The motor I would have thought would be too fast, being 17 turn 550, but no, it's not too bad. If you're after a car you can just buy and enjoy, I mean, you could 3D print a grille for this thing. I mean, it's not a terrible car. Could probably do some inner fenders as well. You know, it's not terrible. Well, where does that leave us? We've only got problem 1 and 2 done. 3 and 5 with a winch. 4 very nearly apart from that little peaky part. And 6 just wasn't going to happen. I'll tell you where this leaves us. It leaves us with a nice radio. And if you buy other Dumbo RC receivers, you can bind an unlimited number with this thing. So that is very good. Yeah, there's no winch, but my cheeky little lanyard, key lanyard thing, it's just under here. You know I'm into 3D printing. Well, if you don't, I am, but I just hot glued it. That's kind of like a 3D printer. It's got a nozzle. It's a $4 little jigger ground anchor. How hot did it all get? It should be pretty warm because we've been working it. Oh, it's only warm. Hey. Okay, nothing broke. Nothing faded, the servo didn't fade. Tyres performed well. The car looked brilliant doing it. So if you can still get it and you like the look of it, we could design a little front for it. I'm quite sure we could just do a couple of holes and bolt it through in the rear. This is not a terrible car. And if you can get it on special before they stop making it, get it. It's single speed. There's nothing special underneath. Just remove that top left link and just enjoy the thing. You've got partner, kids, anyone who just wants to try crawling and you've got the budget for it. Again, great little car. Being short wheelbase, you get extra ability on everything but the really steep ascents and descents, and that's it, because it wants to tip. And this back wheel you can always pull off, just the 2 bumper mounts there, yoink. It'll take other bumpers as well if you want a rear bumper, which you absolutely could fit, or just slide the whole thing out and be done with it. I like you can get rid of the windscreen, the rear tire. I like that there's room for a driver with legs. There aren't many crawlers that have that. I mean, they're just stickers, right? It's actually a fairly basic model as far as the polycarbonate goes, but the stickers really make up for it. They've done a really nice job with a really basic mold. It's quite good. Guys, thanks for watching. Throw me a like. If you've stuck around this long, it's because you like watching my stuff, I suppose, because it's not like this is some new thing. You guys in particular, I really appreciate you. Thank you. I actually had a bit of fun with this one today, and it's just beautiful out in the sunshine too. Hope you could hear me all right with all the wind. This little dead cat's helping. I'm starting to ramble. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT. Better late than never.